Bill and Hillary Clinton just called MAGA Republicans bluff by demanding public testimony on Epstein files, and sources suggest this might expose Trump's entire deflection strategy. We're not talking about Clinton's refusing subpoenas or fighting oversight committee.
Unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
We're talking about reports that after MAGA threatened holding them in contempt for not appearing at House deposition, Clinton's responded by volunteering not just to testify, but to do it publicly. That their letter to James Comer said, "Though you have notably never asked us to appear in open hearing, we now believe that will best suit our concerns about fairness." That they offered specific dates, including February 26th for Hillary Clinton, February 27th for Bill Clinton. That Bill Clinton previously called on Trump to release any remaining materials, mentioning him saying, "We need no such protection," while demanding full transparency. And what might make this moment so significant is what it reveals about Trump's strategy. Sources suggest MAGA Republicans wanted private deposition where they could selectively leak, mischaracterize testimony, create sound bites without full context. But Clinton's demanding public hearing means entire world can watch while Trump is hiding, claiming vindication, despite appearing 38,000 times in documents. Reports indicate Comer previously said, "President Trump is answering questions about Epstein over and over again. Who we haven't heard from is Bill Clinton." But now Clinton agreeing to testify publicly while Trump attacks reporters and lies about files? That might flip script, showing who's actually willing to face scrutiny versus who's deflecting, using Clinton's as distraction from his own 38,000 references. But before we break down why Clinton's demanding public testimony traps MAGA Republicans and what Trump's response reveals about consciousness of guilt, real quick, you cannot trust mainstream media to explain how public hearing request exposes that Republicans wanted private deposition to control narrative. That's why we built John Brown's show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want analysis that actually shows how Clinton's calling bluff might force Republicans to confront Trump's connections they've been deflecting from, hit that subscribe button right now. All right, let's get into what Clinton's move actually accomplishes and why sources suggest it reveals MAGA strategy collapsing. Because think about what Republicans were trying. Comer threatened holding Clintons in contempt if they didn't appear for deposition. Reports indicate plan was private testimony where Republicans could selectively leak damaging excerpts, create narrative without Democrats able to provide context, use Clintons as distraction from Trump's 38,000 references. But Clinton's calling bluff by demanding public hearing where cameras roll, where testimony is complete and unedited, where Democrats can ask questions too, that might destroy Republican strategy. Now, if Comer accepts public hearing, entire world watches testimony about Epstein while Trump's connections get brought up for comparison. Sources suggest if Comer refuses public hearing after threatening contempt, that proves Republicans were never serious about transparency, just wanted private session they could manipulate. Either way, Clinton's win strategically. And timing is significant. This comes as Trump melting down at press conferences attacking female reporters, as his officials like Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick appear in files with documented Epstein relationships, as survivors say their information was exposed while powerful men got protected. Reports indicate when Clintons volunteer for most transparent forum possible, while Trump hides behind false vindication claims, when Bill Clinton previously demanded Trump release all remaining materials mentioning him, while Trump's DOJ declared review complete despite millions of pages potentially concealed, pattern emerges showing who's actually willing to face scrutiny versus who's using deflection and distraction to avoid addressing their own documented connections. Let's start with what Republicans were actually planning, because sources suggest private deposition would have served their deflection strategy. Comer said, "We will move next week to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress for not responding to subpoenas." Reports indicate that threat was designed to make Clintons look like they're hiding something, to create news cycle about Clinton stonewalling, to shift focus from Trump's 38,000 references to Clinton's connections. Standard MAGA playbook where attack becomes defense through misdirection. Think about how private deposition serves this strategy. Sources suggest behind closed doors, Republican members could ask loaded questions designed to create sound bites, could selectively leak portions that sound damaging out of context. Reports indicate could characterize testimony in ways Democrats couldn't immediately contradict because they weren't present, or footage wasn't public. Then MAGA media runs with Clinton-admitted headlines while actual testimony remains hidden. That's why they wanted private session, not for legitimate oversight, but for narrative control. And there's what Clinton's response destroys. Sources suggest by demanding public hearing, they're saying, ask us anything, but do it on camera, do it in front of America, do it where Democrats can participate too. Reports indicate that eliminates Republicans' ability to selectively leak or mischaracterize. Everything goes on record, every question and answer is public. Every Democratic response to Republican grandstanding is visible. When Clintons demand most transparent forum possible while Republicans wanted private session, that might expose who was actually seeking truth versus who was seeking political advantage through manipulation. Think about letters' specific language. Sources suggest, though you have notably never asked us to appear in open hearing, is calling out that Republicans never wanted public testimony. They wanted private deposition they could control. Reports indicate, we now believe that will best suit our concerns about fairness, is saying public hearing ensures fair process where testimony can't be twisted. Clinton's providing specific dates, February 26th and 27th, shows they're serious, they're ready, they're not hiding. When targets of investigation volunteer for public testimony offering specific dates, while accusers wanted private session, that reverses optics completely. But step back and consider what Bill Clinton already said about Epstein files, because sources suggest this provides context for current move. When Epstein Files Transparency Act passed and DOJ began partial release, Clinton issued statements saying, the Epstein Files Transparency Act imposes clear legal duty on DOJ to produce full and complete record the public demands and deserves. Reports indicate he continued, however, what Department of Justice has released so far and manner in which it did so makes one thing clear: someone or something is being protected. Think about what that statement meant. Sources suggest Clinton was calling out Trump's DOJ for incomplete release, for protecting someone through redactions and limited disclosure. He said, we do not know whom, what, or why, but we do know this: we need no such protection. Reports indicate that's explicitly saying release everything about me. I'm not asking for cover. I want full transparency. Then called on Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing photographs of Bill Clinton. When Clinton is demanding Trump's DOJ release everything about him while Trump claims vindication despite 38,000 references, that might show who's confident in their story versus who's hiding behind selective disclosure. And there's contrast with Trump's response. Sources suggest Trump melting down at reporters, attacking female journalists for asking about files, dismissing survivors' trauma, claiming he's vindicated despite thousands of references. Reports indicate his DOJ declared review complete, while survivors say abusers remain protected, while millions of pages might still be concealed, while redactions potentially hide damaging information. Clinton saying, release everything about me, while Trump's administration shields documents and claims they're done, that reveals different levels of confidence about what full transparency would show. Share this video with everyone you know, because there's what this forces on Republicans. Sources suggest if Comer accepts public hearing, he has to explain why he wanted private deposition first. Has to justify threatening contempt for not appearing privately when Clintons were willing to appear publicly all along. Reports indicate has to conduct hearing where Trump's 38,000 references become relevant comparison point. Democrats will ask why Trump won't testify if Clintons are. We'll ask about Trump officials like Lutnick appearing in files. We'll ask why DOJ declared review complete when millions of pages might remain concealed. Public hearing becomes forum for exposing Republican hypocrisy, not just questioning Clinton. But let's examine broader pattern, because sources suggest Clinton's willingness to testify publicly contrasts sharply with Trump administration's accountability avoidance. Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy points out that Trump cabinet members refuse to testify. Reports indicate Christine Noem leaves oversight hearings after 20 minutes. OMB director doesn't show up to budget committee. Officials do their dance on Fox News with prepared talking points, then hide from actual congressional scrutiny under oath. Think about what Krishnamurthy said. Sources suggest they show up on what I call state regime media. They have their talking points, they lie, they defame, and then they hide. Reports indicate, okay, you believe these things. Go testify. Swear you're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and actually get questions in adversarial process. That's the standard Clintons are volunteering to meet through public testimony, while Trump's team refuses. When targets of Republican investigation volunteer for public sworn testimony, while Trump's own officials won't face congressional oversight, that might reveal who's actually confident about their conduct versus who knows they can't defend actions under oath. And there's specific contrast with Epstein connections. Sources suggest Elon Musk appears all over files but hasn't testified publicly. Howard Lutnick documented in files with island visit, charity donations from Epstein, business coordination, but no public testimony. Reports indicate Trump appearing 38,000 times but attacking reporters instead of testifying. Meanwhile, Clinton saying, "Bring me in publicly, ask me anything under oath, televise it for world to see." When people with Epstein connections hide from testimony while demanding others testify, when they refuse accountability, they demand from opponents. That exposes hypocrisy, making their attacks less credible. Share this with everyone because there's Democrats' response. Sources suggest they're conducting shadow hearings because MAGA Republicans refuse to hold official oversight. Krishnamurthy participating in bicameral shadow hearing with Senate to meet with Renee Good's family, with victims of DHS operations in Chicago. Reports indicate because Republicans won't conduct legitimate oversight of ICE killings, of constitutional violations, of Trump officials' conduct, Democrats have to create unofficial forums. When party in power refuses to investigate killings by federal agents while demanding investigations of political opponents, when they won't hold hearings on Trump officials but threaten contempt against Clintons, that might show oversight has become purely partisan weapon rather than legitimate constitutional function. So here's what Clinton calling bluff reveals. After MAGA Republicans threatened holding Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt for not appearing at House Oversight deposition, Clintons responded by volunteering to testify publicly. Their letter to James Comer said, "Though you have notably never asked us to appear in open hearing, we now believe that will best suit our concerns about fairness." They offered specific dates, including February 26th for Hillary, February 27th for Bill. Previously, Bill Clinton called on Trump to release any remaining Epstein materials, mentioning him saying, "We need no such protection," while demanding full file disclosure. Sources suggest Republicans wanted private deposition where they could selectively leak and mischaracterize testimony to create sound bites without context. Clinton's demanding public hearing destroys that strategy by making everything transparent, preventing manipulation, allowing Democrats to participate. Comer previously said, "President Trump is answering questions about Epstein over and over. Who we haven't heard from is Bill Clinton." But Trump appearing 38,000 times in files while melting down at reporters versus Clinton volunteering for public sworn testimony might flip that narrative. Democratic Congressman Krishnamurthy points out Trump cabinet members refuse testifying, leave hearings early, do talking points on Fox, then hide from congressional oversight. When Clintons volunteer for most transparent forum possible while Trump's team refuses accountability, when Clinton demands release of all materials about him while Trump's DOJ declared review, complete concealing millions of pages, when targets of investigation offer public sworn testimony while officials in administration won't face scrutiny, that might reveal who's confident about their story versus who's using deflection and distraction, because transparency would expose connections they're desperate to hide. Stay tuned.